Michael Corcoran from Bluebird Care recently celebrated his first year in business. Michael, how were the last 12 months for you?
It's been exciting. We've learnt a lot. A year ago, I think the doors were open a week or two when I joined you. So it's been a steep learning curve. I guess what has stood me in some good stead is that my background was management, accountancy. So I guess that side of the business, I won't say that it took care of itself, but it certainly allowed us put our focus from the very start on care, and we provide care in the home for older people, people with intellectual or physical disabilities, people of all ages. And from day one, it really allowed us to focus on that rather than being kind of worried and tied up with the day-to-day business.
Now, of course, you were new to the home care industry. Mm-hmm. So, look, it was a change of industry from insurance into healthcare. How much of a challenge was that for you?
Well, I suppose I was joined from the start by our care manager, Sharon Kelly. Sharon's a qualified nurse. So that kind of gave us the whole medical nursing expertise from day one. But like insurance or any business is all about serving the customer, putting their needs at the centre of what you do. So in that way, the focus has remained the same, really. So the challenge to some areas of course, there was a learning curve as such, but, there was a lot of, and Bluebird Care, it's a franchise. So we came with a lot of the policies, the procedures already drafted. So that obviously gave us a huge advantage.
And of course, you also achieved the Q-Mark award during the course of the year itself. That must have been one of the highlights for you. How rigorous was the process to get the Q-Mark?
Well, it was a great highlight because I guess we'd been going for about 6 or 7 months, and all the Bluebird Care offices have actually now achieved the Q-Mark. We're the only home care company in Ireland that we have 20 offices, and all 20 have the Q-Mark. So for us, being only a few months in business, that was a huge, it was a huge, I suppose, outside testimonial and to our policies, our procedures, the focus that we put on service and quality. To answer your question, the Q-Mark process, it's quite detailed and quite involved. It requires a lot of preparation. We would have gone to some meetings which would have outlined what the requirements were. Then there's quite an onerous application form and submission to complete. And then there's a full day audit in our office, going through policies, procedures, files, meeting care staff. So it's quite an onerous procedure, which I guess if any award is worth winning or worth achieving, more onerous the procedure, the better the prize, and the better the award. So it is very prestigious, and we're very pleased to have it.
Is it true to say that the home care sector is going through a real growth phase as we speak? And if so, what's driving that?
The home care is certainly, there are a number of issues. I think people are more aware of the opportunities that are available. Traditionally maybe families, nursing homes, long stay hospitals were the resource, and I guess mainly families. But as the whole demographic structure of Ireland has changed with emigration, both couples working, families being available to care for people maybe the way they would have once, with extended families living around, that's not there to the same extent anymore. So as people have become aware of the possibilities, that has obviously driven the home care market. Obviously people get older, and there's a shift, certainly I think, in government policy and thinking both internationally and Ireland towards the view that staying at home is where most people would like to be. It is less expensive than hospital care, and I think that is driving the market, that there is a need, really.
So the government has recognised the need for broader home care provision, but has it put the necessary financial supports in place for clients that need such care?
I guess in these straitened times, we would all like the government to do more and devote more resources, but I know that in the budget that there has been an increase in hours given to the HSE for home help. They've also increased the threshold for tax-free allowances.
Explain that to me.
Yeah, I mean, there are allowances available for home care that the person who pays for the home care can offset the cost at their top tax rate. So if there is somebody, say, paying tax at 41, it'll be 40% in the new budget, they can claim back 40% of the cost of home care, up to €50,000 in the course of 1 year. In the budget, that was increased to €75,000 a year, which, let's be honest, most people don't have that level of exposure to home care. But it is still something that can significantly bring down the cost. But then, of course, not everybody pays income tax. And one thing we would like to see is that the fair deal, which is currently available for nursing home care, be extended to home care, because this really is about widening the net and giving people choice. And the more facilities there are and the more incentives there are, the broader the choice. And long term, I'm sure the government gets back way in savings, way more in savings in hospital kind of costs, etc., than they do in kind of paying out for the tax relief.
Now, I was reading something recently about this fair deal scheme, and there's lots of commentators saying that it's underfunded as it is. So the likelihood of it extending to the home care market is quite slim. Would you agree?
I don't know, because I think the government definitely have to look at ways of, and I think it has to be part of a holistic solution to, like we've been hearing about Beaumont Hospital in the news and the overcrowding. And I know that one of the solutions put in place by the hospital via the HSE was to increase the number of home care hours. So that's a solution. So I think it has to be put, and I think that if it's viewed holistically, that it might not necessarily be the case that it would be viewed negatively.
Michael, the care sector has come under fire in recent weeks following the transmission of the footage that was recorded at Oris Attracta. Michael, surely this emphasises the importance of training and robust inspection processes within the healthcare sector.
Absolutely. The more training, the more inspection, the more regulation, and the more transparency and the more vigorously everything is applied is in everybody's interest, because we're dealing with vulnerable people, and anything that can increase their security and the quality of care that they give is only to be welcomed.
Now, looking at that particular programme that went out, I'm kind of thinking to myself, is it a skill deficit? Or is the personality traits of these people the real issue here? So should there be more work done in relation to vetting their personality traits through psychometric testing or that? That is something that maybe could be looked at in future. Yeah, I mean, there are rigorous interview technique, interviews, references, but I guess anything that can give more comfort, should be looked at. Now, returning to your own business, I'm interested to find out what your plans are for 2015.
Like, we're still kind of taking baby steps, and we're still in a very much a formative stage of our business. We have, given care in all sorts of areas during the year. When people think of home care, they initially think of care of older persons, and that certainly would make up a large part of what we do and would continue to do so. But we also give a lot of care for people with intellectual and physical disabilities, and it's something that that is an area that we will continue to focus on. And we're very committed to, like we spoke a few seconds ago about training, but about training our staff in the areas that they need to be trained in order to give the care that people need. So if their needs are are greater, and if they're more highly dependent and they need care in tracheostomy or peg feeding, we would be totally committed to training our staff in those areas. So that would be from the care point of view. From the business point of view, we want to keep raising our profile, making people aware of the service, because I think that's really, really very, very important, because people can themselves, the people that we care for can be very vulnerable, but also their family members often need reassurance. And we would have had a lot of conversations with people during the year, and at the end they would say thank you, and now I know kind of what's there, and that's the weight off my mind. So even just knowledge is so important for people, and knowing what's available.
And do you find that, I suppose, because of the negative publicity that this particular sector has got over the last number of years, that people are now more vigilant when choosing a home care provider for a relative, that they're going through a more rigorous process? They're not just picking up the phone and, looking to speak to the first one they find on Google and make a decision quickly.
I would hope there. I mean, we wouldn't always get sight of the steps that people would take, but we would spend a lot of time explaining to people how the process would work, what the care would get, about our supervisions, about constant communication, and really, trying to emphasise that there are issues that will be dealt with.
Of looking ahead at the challenges that face you in the year ahead. What's high on your list?
Well, that's, it's all about profile, and it's all about getting out there. And I guess, one of the big challenges, actually, interestingly, is when you're speaking to people, whether it's, a lot of time it would be a family member would contact us. Sometimes it would be the person themselves who needs care, or other times it would be the family member. And sometimes they're trying to, there's a fear that getting home help and home care will lessen someone's independence. But our experience is actually very often, not always, because it depends how well and how healthy somebody is, but very often having help at home enhances somebody's independence, because it helps them do things that they used to be able to do, and gets people's confidence back. And to us, that can be a challenge sometimes, getting that message across, that getting support at home need not lessen your independence. In fact, it can enhance it.